Trails Tales WA acknowledges the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation as the traditional custodians of the land where this podcast is recorded. We recognise their deep and continuing connection to land, waters, skies and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and we extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people listening today. We're grateful to share stories from the trails and this beautiful country where we walk, reflect and connect with nature. From here on Whadjuk Noongar land, and wherever you're tuning in, we honour the enduring strength, culture and care of First Nation peoples across Australia. Welcome to Trail Tales WA, the podcast where we break down barriers and share the stories we hear on the trails. I'm your host, Tracy Jones, and I'm super excited to be back for 2026. In today's episode, we're shifting the focus slightly from individual trail stories to the role businesses play in shaping our outdoor culture. I'm joined by Mikaela from Paddy Pallin, an outdoor retailer with a long history of connection, care for the environment, and strong community values. Together we explore what it means to be values-led in retail, especially when those values are grounded in sustainability, inclusion, and helping others access the outdoors. Mikaela shares insights into how Paddy Pallin amplifies diverse voices through their ambassadors, why representation matters in adventure spaces, and the community projects that continue to make a real impact beyond the shop floor. This episode is about walking the talk, how businesses can actively contribute to stronger, more inclusive outdoor communities while staying true to their purpose. So let's get into it. Mikaela, thank you so much for joining me today.
No worries. I'm actually very excited to be here.
Oh, that's awesome. And this is technically a work day, so it's excited that you get to do this on work time.
Yes. It's a pretty good job.
Awesome. To kick things off, can you tell us a little bit about your role at Paddy Pallin and what connection to the outdoors looks like for you personally?
Yeah. Well, my official title at Paddy Pallin is I'm the WA Partnerships and Activities Coordinator. I'm part of a small team of coordinators. We've got one in Melbourne and one in New South Wales as well. And we get to do all the things that exist for our company outside of the shop.
That sounds so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. So lots of fun events in the trail running space, the hiking space, the climbing space, and lots of work with outdoor ed departments at schools as well.
Very impressive. That's awesome that you get to have an impact to the youth when it comes to outdoors and inspiring them as well.
Yeah. And there's always the not so fun side of work. Obviously, we do lots of sitting at the computer and all of that kind of stuff. But overall, it's really, really cool. It's very flexible and I feel lucky to have the freedom to, like we'll talk about soon, use my values inside of what I do and use the resources I'm given to align with those values.
Excellent. Awesome. And I mean, your role that you have with Paddy's now is how our paths cross, which I'm very grateful for. And it's awesome when we get to be at outdoor events together and catch up. Let's just have a little bit more of a chat about Paddy Pallin now. For those that don't know who Paddy Pallin is, do you want to just tell our listeners a little bit about who Paddy Pallin are and what their values are?
Yeah, I suppose Paddy Pallin is one of the, if not the longest standing outdoor retailer in Australia. Our founding father, I suppose you could call him, Paddy, he started the company back in 1930.
Wow, I didn't realise it was so long.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we're coming up to our 100th year celebration, which is really cool. So he started just making his own gear to make his outdoor adventures more accessible and comfortable and safe for himself. And one thing's led to another, and obviously stores opened, and we turned from a company that made its own equipment into a huge distributor of other really amazing brands that we get to partner with. Paddy Pallin's a really values-driven company, which is why they're so good to work for. A lot of the decisions that get made are around people and community and environmental sustainability, and less about, I suppose, from a retail perspective, less about the big KPIs for staff in the stores and those kind of things. They still exist. It's still a business, but it's not the driving force behind a lot of the decisions, which is really nice.
And I think that's what makes Paddy Pallin so successful as well. And the brands that you guys do distribute and that are like featured in your stores are probably all companies that align with your values as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think I've ever gone into Paddy Pallin's and not seen a reputable brand. And everything I've ever bought from Paddy's, I love and use constantly. And I just know, here's me doing a sales pitch for Paddy's now. I just know, like, whenever I recommend to my hikers that they, you know, a certain piece of equipment, I recommend to go to Paddy's, because I know that even if they walk in there with a certain idea of what they want, the staff in Paddy's are so helpful. They are adventurers. They live and breathe this stuff. And they use the gear out there. They're not just, you know, people who've come in with no outdoor adventure experience at all. I think that also makes a huge difference. I imagine it's really important that your staff all have kind of similar values to the company as well.
Yeah. I think, as I mentioned, we don't internally have those bigger like goals and targets for individual staff to meet, and that's because when people come in, our focus is to be able to educate rather than sell. It's to be able to say, hey, the thing that you're describing you need, we actually might not have that here. Here's the best option for you to go to. And so we are more focused on them having a safe experience in the outdoors than us making a sale.
Yeah. And that comes into play hugely when it comes to someone that might have a disability or a certain body type or a certain injury or something like that, and they're looking for a particular piece of equipment that is suitable for them and their body and their ability. And I love that you guys just give that honest feedback and suggestion rather than going, oh no, well, this kind of matches what you want, buy this. That's really important. And I think that's the difference with Paddy Pallin. So we've heard a little bit about the values that Paddy believes in. What does that actually mean in practice? Like in a retail environment, can you give us an example of how one of your values that you have as an organisation has actually led to a certain decision? Yeah.
So I suppose the first thing that comes to mind on a very retail level is our Don't Bag the Environment Fund that we've had going for a long time. So when people come in and make a purchase and they decide not to take a bag to put their things in, we have either like coins or tokens that we then put into a container each time someone says no, and that gets calculated at the end of every month and goes towards a conservation group or an environmental fund. Often we partner with organisations such as For Wild Places, and it goes to a really good cause, and that's been going for a really long time. And I suppose we'll get into the other side of where the values drive the decisions is outside of the store as well, and the different events and partnerships we as a company are able to put our financial resources towards.
Awesome. Let's go get into it. Tell us about that.
So that's, I guess, one of the funnest parts of my job is we as a company, as most companies do, have our marketing budget. And so we have some amazing partners and organizations and events that we are committed to supporting our resources. And what I really like is we don't often put all our eggs in one basket. So I think it could be tempting to find a really, really big event that's going to create enormous visibility and business return and everything, and put lots of money towards that. But instead, we are able to look at lots of small community groups and small community events and give all of them a little piece to be able to do what they want to do to get out there in the community.
But that approach actually means that more people actually feel the benefit.
Yeah.
Whereas a bigger event probably has a bigger budget to start with anyway, even though you're going to, as an organisation, get more out of it, like more bang for your buck.
Yeah.
That's not the driving force behind your decisions, which is exactly the value-led stuff that you were discussing.
Yeah, yeah. So I mentioned for Wild Places, they, with us, have started, for example, a trail running event in New South Wales called the Pilliga Ultra, which is a huge event to fundraise research and protection for a area or national park that's been recognised to have, you know, endangered species and that kind of thing. Similarly, in Tasmania, we've supported the ongoing Takaina run and the foundation there with Bob Brown. We are at that event every year and put a lot into that. Our staff often run and attend that event. Yeah, it's really, really cool. And on a smaller scale, I suppose, because we're here in WA, for me, I'm able to commit resources to some of our awesome, whether it's our governing bodies in the industry like Trails WA and Hike West, or whether it's you guys at Off the Beaten Track, or whether it's the Bibbulmun Track Foundation, or First Hike Project,
yes.
which you managed to chat to the ladies from there in one of your other episodes, is we're able to, you know, give them a whole fleet of equipment for free to be able to take these young people out camping and hiking at no expense to them, which is just so cool.
And that's just making the outdoors more accessible and inclusive, which is like music to my ears.
Yeah.
So let's take a bit of a turn and focus on sustainability. We can see the effects of climate change every single day, and you've already sort of touched on one of the methods that Paddy has in place in the shop, but what other actions or what other initiatives does Paddy Pallin offer that support sustainability? Yeah,
that's a really good question. It's a hard one in the actual like retail space, isn't it? Because outside of the store, it's like, oh, look at all these cool things that we're supporting from like an environmental perspective. But when you're actually in the store, it's like, what are we doing to implement sustainable practices? I think the main one would be the intentionality behind the brands that our purchasing team work hard to be able to range. When you look at RAB and Patagonia, for example, the transparency behind their environmental practices as producers of, you know, clothing and equipment. RAB, for example, has just released a new process whereby they are listing the intricate pieces of every item of clothing they come out and how much percentage of each section of that item is recycled. It's the full transparency behind what they're doing, and them being able to say, hey, we know we're retail. We know that what we're doing might be having not the most positive environmental impact, but here's what we're doing to make sure we're doing it the best way we can.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it doesn't end up in landfill.
Yeah.
Or we're reducing the amount of waste that we have.
Yeah. So,
I love cool. that. Really like a kind of vetting the products and making sure that they align.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Why do you think it's so important to highlight diverse voices in adventure, especially in an industry that hasn't always felt so inclusive?
Yeah, I really like this question. And when I was thinking about it, my brain went in a million directions. And I suppose one of the reasons this is important at the core is to increase access points. So the more diversity we have in people adventuring and sharing their adventures, the more, like I said, the more access points people who identify with those different voices have to go, hey, this person's like me. and they're doing this really cool thing out in nature and adventuring, and therefore I can do that too.
Yeah.
And so the more examples of that we have, the more people are able to be out there doing really cool things.
It's almost like they're influential, isn't
Yes.
it? So if someone who has a disability, for example, is out there doing that, their friends, families, community, they see them, they're like, yeah, cool, I can do that too. So it's that roll-on effect, because their network of people are actually seeing their positive effect that being outdoors and nature has on them.
Yeah.
They want that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And bear with me while I verbalize the next tangent my brain went on, because I like this one, but I was struggling to put it to words.
Oh, I love a good brain dump. Go.
So essentially, the small background to me, I have like a bachelor's degree in outdoor recreation and counselling. So a lot of what I do is based on the theories that we learnt there. And when I looked at this question, I thought about the human nature relationship pedagogy or theory, which talks about this idea that someone is alienated from nature, and then they are moving through nature, and then they are caring for nature, and then they are integrated with nature. It's a whole process of someone being able to fully immerse and realize that I am part of nature and I care for the environment. And the reason this is related to having diverse voices in adventure is that the more people we can get out adventuring, to me, I see that as more people we are helping get to that stage of caring for nature or fully integrated with nature. And that outcome is amazing, because that's more people to be able to protect the environment, which we need to survive.
100%.
Yeah.
I actually love the way your brain works there. It makes so much sense. It's like, not only are those people getting out into nature, obviously reaping the rewards of how green space and nature makes us feel, obviously our physical well-being, but our mental health as well. But then they're going to become so much more connected to it. And like you said, they're going to do their part to make sure that they're looking after it, and it's going to be there for future generations to come.
Exactly.
How do you think diversity strengthens the outdoor community?
Oh, that's a great one. First of all, I think that when people see diversity represented in the outdoors, it creates more empathy and understanding. People who may be able-bodied, seeing someone who is not out there adventuring and achieving really, really cool things, allows someone who might not have previously had a lot of understanding of, hey, this person actually is way more able than I gave them credit for. Creating that empathy and connection and breaking down those barriers between minorities and an us and them, that's going to create so much strength and bond and allow people to go out and adventure together rather than that us and them approach to being outdoors.
Yeah, I've definitely seen it when we've been on hikes with Off the Beaten Track. So I've definitely seen it with my guests, how there's a bunch of different people on our tours from all different backgrounds, different abilities, and when you're out on the trail, all of those stigmas or labels that they may have even had for themselves or other people have for others, they're removed. It's like the outdoors just strips all those barriers down, and you're all just human beings out there enjoying the trail, connecting.
Yeah.
And I love how, for me, it feels like, and I could be completely wrong because I have this like little happy life in my brain of how things should be, but for me, it's like everyone is just equal out there, and there shouldn't be any like need for people not to be able to access the outdoors.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think the other really cool thing with this question as well is, I guess from a cultural perspective, having that diverse representation in the outdoors is starting to help correct a imbalance in our historical narrative around adventure and exploration, where non-Western exploration hasn't been as represented in stories and books, and the Indigenous way of caring for land and all of that, you know, having that more represented in that diversity of adventure and people in the outdoors is helping us to go, hey, actually, it wasn't just, I hope this is okay to say, it wasn't just middle-aged white men out there achieving all these really cool things. They just had the privilege of it being documented. Yeah. And so now we're realizing, actually, there were so many amazing people from different cultures and backgrounds achieving these things before we were.
Yeah. They just didn't have the means to document it. 100%.
Yeah.
And I think as a society, we all get more educated on things.
Yeah.
That's all coming to light, which is, you can definitely see a shift. Ambassadors. So I know that Paddy Pallin works with a range of different ambassadors. How do they help amplify the different stories and experiences in the outdoors?
Yeah. The ambassadors is something that I have been really passionate about and pushing for a bit more lately. I think having faces of a brand and of a company out in the community is just so important to upholding, to be able to represent these values that a company is supposedly living by. We need people under our name out there living those values.
Yeah.
And so we have this amazing team, one of which is sitting in front of me right now.
Stop it.
Where we've managed to see people doing really cool things and going, hey, we'd really like you to be the face of our company. We've got you, a mum, a business owner, doing the most amazing things, working with people with different abilities. Yeah, representing the LGBTQIA plus community. Yeah. Keeps getting longer, but we love it.
You got it.
And just amazing representation from so many aspects. We have an amazing lady, Keita, Dr. Keita. She is a female ecologist, and I was just learning that still only just 30% of published scientific ecology papers are by women, and it's still an area that's so underrepresented. And she is on her social media really vocally calling out governments on their appalling environmental practices, and
go Keita.
Yeah, just using her voice to do some really, really cool things in an industry where speaking up might be quite scary, which is amazing. We have just taken on the amazing young Bianca Adler, who is a girl from Victoria who is just breaking world records in the mountaineering space. She's slowly becoming the youngest woman to summit so many different mountains, but she's still in year 12. She's still finishing high school. She gets up every morning and she trains. She's about to attempt her second Everest summit, and she's going during the school year. She sets aside her school holidays. Sorry, I'm getting really passionate. She sets aside her school holidays to do all of her schoolwork that she'll be missing out on while all her friends are out socializing. And to me, I see a young woman demonstrating not only discipline and this amazing, passion for adventure, but it's like there's probably so many girls her age who are, sitting at home just on social media, and it's like, even me as a 30-year-old woman, I'm like, damn, I have no excuses. She's just really inspiring. And yeah, having her represent that generation is really, really cool.
I feel like she's probably going to be the next Young Australian of the Year, to be honest. Sounds incredible.
Yeah.
And for everyone listening, my facial expression right now is my jaw is very much down. I'm in awe of how Mikaela is describing Bianca.
Yeah.
Incredible. And there's another one?
Yeah, we've got a couple of other amazing women who are out there still doing really cool things in the science and like ecology space as well. But I won't have time to introduce everyone. But the other person who I think is really valuable to talk about, especially in the, I suppose, in the space we're seeing a lot online at the moment with how masculinity and competitive sports is represented, is we've just taken on one of Paddy Pallin's own, George Knight. He's a young guy who was working at our Hobart store who is very, very quickly becoming one of the world's best trail runners.
Oh.
He's winning in his age category races all over the world. He's just come out of nowhere and just is shocking everyone. But the reason I really like George is he doesn't have social media. He's not out here self-promoting or doing things to make a name for himself. He is just doing this for the pure joy of being out in nature and adventure racing. He volunteers when he's racing, he'll stay at the race area and just be volunteering in the community around the area while he's training for his race. He had a whole 3-page spread in a magazine recently that described him as humble, and he would finish his race just with a big grin and no big showy celebration, just give, a big hug to whoever was waiting for him, and that was that. And I think in the space of competitive sports, he is an amazing person to be representing young men of his age and showing how just genuine humility can look in that space.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. It kind of makes me question, am I doing enough for the...
Oh my gosh,
you are. As a human, really.
Yeah.
When I hear these stories, I'm like, hey, these people are incredible. But I guess the common thread is their love for the outdoors. And I think anyone that loves the outdoors and spends time out there is a good human.
Yeah.
I'm impressed that you guys have found so many good people to be the face and the voices of Paddy Pallin. So kudos to Paddy's and you for being involved in that project. While we're talking about that project, what other community projects or events is Paddy Pallin most proud of, or are you most proud of them being involved in?
Yeah, when I think about this, there are so many answers I could give because we have been involved in some really cool projects and funding. For example, there's this fairly new concept called the Dark Sky National Park, where certain areas are getting recognized as these parks for, I don't know the absolute detail, but essentially it's areas with such a small amount of light pollution and effect on the surrounding flora and fauna that they get funding to be recognized as this beautiful protected area.
Yeah.
And we were able to sponsor researchers and scientists to go to the Dark Sky Symposium to further their knowledge and research to be able to create more of these national park or dark sky park areas, which is really cool. But the thing that I'm really proud of on a smaller scale actually is we do our monthly in-store education nights.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because when I first thought about these nights, I was like, oh yeah, this is really cool, but how much will people actually get from this? And I've been reflecting on that thought and have realized how much of a privileged thought that was, because my upbringing, my schooling, my university degree has all led to me having this knowledge of the outdoors and of traveling safely and comfortably through different environments. But everyone has to start somewhere.
100%.
And how lucky am I to have had that? But not everyone gets that. And so now I'm in a position where I've got adults coming to me to listen on how can I go on my first overnight hike?
Yeah.
Or how can I choose a pair of shoes that aren't going to give me agonizing blisters?
Yeah.
How can I choose a sleeping bag and tent that's going to last me a lifetime? And, you know, how can I navigate with a map and compass? All these things that are bits of knowledge that I've just developed over my lifetime that I now get to have the honor of sharing with other people is really cool.
Yeah. I can definitely resonate with that. On the flip side of that, I'm not promoting necessarily gear when people have those questions for me, but I'm talking to them about like the different methods or the different ways in which they can, I guess, sustain their hike or make themselves more comfortable or fuel their hike. And one thing I always do is, you know, especially when it comes down to, I actually had the conversation with someone the other day who really wanted to book onto our Pemberton to Northcliffe to hike, but they were freaking out because they're like, I don't think I'm going to be able to carry the pack. I don't think I'm going to be able to carry the weight. I was like, have you got any spinal issues? And they said, no, I'm okay. I'm just like, what happens if I get out there and I do like a few Ks and I can't do it? And I was like, well, that's because we build up to it. Like, you know, my 100% recommendation is always start with a good pack. Start with a good pack that's fitted for you. Obviously, you know, set them to you guys. And then, you know, it's about training and building yourself up to it. So I guess we're both sharing our knowledge that we've gained over our life experiences to influence and inspire and empower the next generation, so to speak, of outdoor adventurers coming through. And I feel like that is 100% privileged.
Oh, exactly.
Like, it's so cool to be in that position that we can do that.
Yeah, it's pretty special.
We're running out of time, Mikaela. I've got one more question for you. If our listeners take one thing away from today and our chat, what do you want it to be?
So, I think if you could take one thing away from today, it would be that no matter what industry you're working in, or no matter what career path you have found yourself in at the moment, there are most of the time ways within your power to do your job in a way that can be aligned with what you would say your core values are. It might take more effort than, say, if you were just in a job that on a surface level ticked off all of those boxes. And so for example, if I was working for a company who was an adventure therapy company.
Yeah.
For example, we got to take people out into nature and help them work through personal hardships and that kind of thing. I would say that's the kind of job I would thrive in. It would be an easy workplace for me to thrive in because at a surface level, it's ticking all those boxes for my values. However, that's not where I am right now, and I'm really happy and okay with that because I'm in a place that's challenging me to live my values and work harder for it to be what I hope is a good influence on an industry that might not be as recognized for those values.
I think that's perfect.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I feel like this whole process of me approaching you to be on the podcast has really given you some time to reflect on everything as well.
Yeah.
And I really love that we've had the privilege of being part of your journey.
Yeah.
So Mikaela, I'd love to thank you so much for sharing your insights and giving us insights into the role that Paddy Pallin continues to play to build stronger, more inclusive outdoor communities. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Trail Tales WA. If this episode resonated with you, please share it and help us keep these important and amazing conversations moving forward. Until next time, we'll see you guys out on the trails. And thank you so much again, Mikaela.
No worries. Thank you.